Hi, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Fandom Report. I'm your host, Catherine Mora, and today I'm so happy to be joined by Tyrell, aka Theories by T.
Hello.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you again so much for agreeing to join me on this episode. Super excited. We're going to be talking about like all of the Marvel news that's been coming out recently. And for those of you who don't follow Tyrell on TikTok and Instagram, you guys are missing out because he's like he knows it all. Like I remember in the early WandaVision days, when I was just so confused as to what was going on. Tyrell, he's all over it. So we're definitely in good hands today. So T, I want to know initially because when this episode of the podcast drops, will be Monday morning, Monday night. The new
Mhm.
trailer for the first trailer for Moon Knight is going to be dropping. So,
Mm.
what are your thoughts and feelings about this show? About what we know so far, which isn't a lot, but
About Moon Knight?
yeah.
Oh, I am interested to see where Moon Knight goes. So I made a video about this recently. Like it looks like
Mhm.
it's going down one of two different like paths. It's either going like down this super dark, grounded, almost Daredevil like show where it's like just street level crime, um, very violent, but very like still just human, like human level story, similar to
Mhm.
Daredevil, to Hawkeye, to Falcon and Winter Soldier. But in the teaser already, we haven't got the full trailer yet, but in the teaser, like he's being on a werewolf and the suit's like wrapping around him like it looks
Mhm.
like a horror movie. And it looks really dark and horror-esque for a Disney Plus series, fresh off the back of a very light-hearted Christmas special,
Mhm.
Hawkeye.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see like how far down either of those paths it's gonna go, because Moon has a character that can go like either way. Like his stories
Mhm.
kind of lends to both. So I'm really excited. I'm hoping they go down the mostly the mystical sort of side. I'm hoping they go down the horror sort of area, because like with things like Multiverse of Madness and stuff coming out, I want to know that
Right.
Marvel can really experiment and have fun like outside of their usual genre.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like that is probably the route it's going to take, like you said, based on the things that we saw in the teaser. And also just thinking about, because I've seen theories as well about how Dane Whitman from Eternals and Blade might play a role in Moon Knight, or like Moon Knight might lead more into that storyline with Blade. And, considering how Multiverse of Madness got postponed and now looks like
Yeah.
Moon Knight is probably going to end up coming out before that movie, the horror
Mhm.
elements too, like that would be a great way to lead in to that. So
Yeah,
totally agree.
absolutely.
Yeah. And it's also just going to be fun to see Oscar Isaac in the MCU finally. I know that they've approached him with like a lot of roles over the years. So to see him finally like there, and it's a role that he's excited about. And also, just knowing the fan base that he has from Star Wars, it'll be interesting to see how that
Yeah.
affects the fandom at large for the MCU. Because all the love to Star Wars and the Star Wars fans, but we know they can be a little picky about things sometimes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's weird. We live in a world where the preferable fandom is the Marvel fandom. Like, yeah, yeah, we're the safer option of the two.
Yeah.
You've gone down one path. Come join us over here.
Yeah, let's try to keep it simple, guys. We're here for a good time. Like, um, but yeah, and I feel like I don't know. I think overall it's going to be a very good show. It will be interesting to see how they do, keep that balance between like street level stuff versus mystical. If they lean more towards one than the other. I don't know. I think overall Moon Knight's definitely going to be it's probably going to rank like very high up for the Disney Plus MCU shows.
I agree. I
Yeah.
think there's very few ways they can like mess it up, if I'm being honest with you.
Mhm.
I guess I hope that because it's tackling things like mental health and like mental illness, that they tackle it in a somewhat sensitive way. I think that's
Mhm.
where maybe you could see the potential slip up. But outside of that, like story wise, I think it's so interesting a concept that like I think it will hook people enough. Like people will rank it super highly. It's very I don't know, it's very ambitious, but at the same time, I said that about like the Eternals, and like I rank Eternals really highly on like my MCU ranking, but like I also say that's another like super ambitious, different Marvel project. That was WandaVision, and because those shows and movies are different to the standard MCU formula, it's they tend to rank a little bit lower on people's lists, or people use that as a reason to not like it. So it could go the other way in terms of like opinion, but as someone who likes when Marvel breaks away from their tradition and does something a little new, like I think it's going to be one of the best.
So it's funny that you mentioned like kind of breaking away from like the what they've done previously, because then I'm starting to think about the what little we know about Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, because it feels like we know it's not going to be like a hero story. They've said it's going to be more about Wakanda at large, which
Yeah.
again, like Eternals, it's not really something they've done before. They haven't really done a project that's based on like a society and a people as a whole. It's always been like, here's one hero, here's a group of heroes. What are your thoughts
Yeah.
about how that might play out?
With Black Panther Wakanda Forever, I'm interested to see which characters they use to tell this story, because like Ryan Coogler and Kevin Feige, they've both said that Black Panther is going to be a kind of a movie that, yeah, like you said, explores Wakanda as a whole, but also they know that they've already got a rich catalog of great characters set up in the first movie, that they're like, we can go into any of these characters and explore them a lot more and like widen their stories. So whether that's like M'Baku, Okoye, Wakabi, Shuri, I'm interested to see which of those characters they use as like a focal point. I know you don't necessarily need a singular main character, but I think for a story like, to explore a country like Wakanda, I feel like you do need at least one character to kind of like be your point of view person to like kind of follow through and like pick up the information of the world. And where T'Challa was that in the first film, whether the main character is the next Black Panther or not, I'm curious to see which one will be next. But I mean, it could be another one that's like very, excuse me, it could be another one that's very different to the standard MCU formula, depending on how they approach the story. Like to my knowledge, I don't think we even know who the main villain is. Like there are theories on like Namor and Doctor Doom and stuff like that, but there's no like hard evidence towards it other than an actor has been cast who isn't African, so the villain's gonna be not Black. And it's like, all right, well, that's a very wide catalog of who to choose from. So like, okay, sure. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to Wakanda Forever, but I'm also kind of cautiously optimistic because there are some characters that I would like them to focus on as a main character. Like I've always said, like Okoye and Ayo and like the Dora Milaje are like the most interesting characters next to T'Challa himself in those movies. Like I find Okoye especially just so fascinating.
Yes.
Her relationship to the throne compared to her relationship as the general, the warrior, the leader of these warrior women. The fact that she was an Avenger for the 5 years, like she was the interim Avenger while T'Challa was dusted, like helping out Nat and Rhodey and those guys and their little stuff. Like, what was that like for her? How like balancing those two worlds out? Because the last time we left Wakanda, T'Challa opened up the borders. He was like, "Yeah, well, America needs us. Wakanda's gonna be here," and then he dusts, and Okoye's got to fucking deal with that shit. She's like, "Uh-oh." I'm curious to see where they go with that with her character. And she's a fascinating character in the comics. She and T'Challa are like basically best friends. Like that, she was his right hand man. Yeah, there are a lot of ways to go by it. I really hope they lean on her as a main character. I wouldn't be mad at M'Baku or Shuri or the rest, but I really hope Okoye gets like her day in this.
I agree. Like I love Okoye so much, and Ayo as well. Like I love the the featured role that they gave her in The Falcon, the Winter Soldier. And I agree. I feel like the Dora Milaje the Dora Milaje in the MCU is what the Amazons are to the DCEU. And I feel like I feel like most DC and even Marvel fans can agree, like the action sequences with the Amazons are fantastic. And I feel like that's something that 100% Marvel should lean in on for the Dora Milaje. I feel like because we've seen them fight and they're freaking fantastic. They're amazing. And any action sequence that they can show, like the culture of the Dora Milaje, like the training, anything that they can give
Yeah.
us about them would be great. And, you know, doing that through the point of view of Okoye or Ayo would be a great. When you mentioned M'Baku, that reminded me that apparently Winston Duke, who plays M'Baku, renegotiated his deal with Marvel because now he has an expanded role in the movie. And I've seen a lot of people saying that, oh, that means he's going to be the new Black Panther, or, you know, there's going to be, you know, something about with the throne, with, you know, however they handle T'Challa not being there with Chadwick Boseman's unfortunate death. What are your thoughts about that potential expanded role?
So I'm actually now in the camp that I don't think M'Baku or Okoye or Shuri or any of them will actually become the Black Panther by the end of the movie. And I think, because as we said, the movie is primarily going to be exploring Wakanda as a whole and how they you know approach a movie without the main hero, but still explore the fictional world they've already created. And I just feel like a movie that essentially just rushes to replace Chadwick Boseman's iconic character isn't really honoring his legacy. And they keep saying like, this is a movie that's gonna honor his legacy. This is a movie that he will be proud of. And like, whether he's proud of it or not, I don't know. I don't know if I'll feel comfortable. Like, I mean, I'll still enjoy watching it, but like, something about watching a whole movie of just being like, which of these other characters, these other friends, like pit them against each other and choose who's the most suitable for the throne. Because you can make arguments all day, right? Like, you know, Shuri is quite literally blood related, like she probably deserves it from a familial sense. M'Baku from just strictly like a combat sense, Okoye from just like skill set and stuff like that. So you can make arguments for anyone. And M'Baku's pay rise, the way I kind of see that personally is that I think his character is going to get a much more deeper explanation. And I really hope they go into his tribe more, because they don't really explain why the M'Baku, the eight, I don't remember the
Jabari, I believe.
Yeah, they didn't explain why the Jabari had to get shoved off into the mountains. There was like there's some history between like T'Challa's ancestors and M'Baku's ancestors, where the Jabari just got like sidelined into the mountains, and like they're not involved in it. Like you're not allowed to come to all of the cool kid meetings, and you can't go over there. And you know, it's interesting, you know, because when you see the flashbacks, it seems like all of the clans of Wakanda, you know, the little stand flashbacks are all cool together. Like everyone's like living in harmony. For some reason, something happened with the Jabari that sent them off. But clearly M'Baku and the Jabaris love Wakanda just as much as the rest of the clans do. So I'm hoping it more just explores that element, and that's what they're pushing. So where he was a supporting character in the first movie, in this one he becomes a bit more of a main character than he used to be. And I mean, there are also other reasons. It could be that he wants to make sure that he's not getting paid less than certain other actors who aren't doing their due diligence on set. So, that's how I see it. I want a lot more of M'Baku, but I think there are just a few reasons why I wouldn't want it to just be, oh, it's because he's Black Panther. Also, I think there's some technical elements. Somewhere like he doesn't pray to or like worship the Panther god. Like their whole thing is the apes, like that ape thing is their aesthetic. So for him to just all of a sudden be like, now my animal has changed, like my essentially, like it would feel like he's changing religions. It wouldn't really sit right.
That's a good point. And I agree with what you're saying about how, because I know there's like a huge portion of the fan base that want them to recast T'Challa or to, you know, introduce a new Black Panther. And I agree with you that at least this movie shouldn't be about that. Like if they want to do that, like in a third Black Panther movie, like picking a new Black Panther, I think giving the time to, like, you know, give that legacy, that and pay tribute to Chadwick Boseman's legacy, and take time to explore all of these characters before choosing a new Black Panther. If they do that, I feel like taking the time to do that in one movie is probably the best course of action. And then with the third Black Panther movie, if/when hopefully they do one, that would be when the new Black Panther storyline would come into play. And I think part of it too is, you know, seeing like audiences' reactions to these characters, like when you do a deeper dive into all of them, like seeing what the fans think about them, you know, when you go beyond the surface. Because if, you know, they pick, let's say they picked Shuri, for example, to be the new Black Panther. Like I know a lot of fans loved Shuri when Black Panther first came out, but you know, we won't go into it, but you know, if you're in the Marvel fandom, you know recent things on set. You know, so maybe Shuri is not the best choice, you know, from a monetary standpoint for Marvel Studios to pick as a new Black Panther. So definitely taking the time to see how audiences react to the characters and their storylines in this next movie is probably like the smartest choice before picking, like saying, okay, you are the new Black Panther. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think they need to really gauge the audience, especially like, you know, the first Black Panther movie was like nearly 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Exactly now, like, it was like a while ago, and you know, Black Panther and those characters have appeared in, you know, Infinity War and Endgame since, and some other, and Falcon and Winter Soldier, and some other projects. But I feel like we haven't really gotten into those supporting characters as in depth as as I think we would need to, or I would personally have liked us to, before I go, oh yeah, this is definitely my Black Panther, and this person has to be my Black Panther. Yeah, my main thing is, I think let it breathe. I don't see any other way of them kind of going about T'Challa's death other than, I mean, Chadwick's death, other than to say that T'Challa also died, but they say that he just died of like cancer, just to line up and make it similar to Chadwick, or if it's that, you know, something happened to him post Endgame, or he kind of sustained an injury. I don't know. I think, you know, I don't think they can just go through the movie and all of a sudden we just like, they just don't talk about T'Challa the entire movie, and we'll learn next movie what happens to him. But I think there are other ways. I'm personally, I am in the camp that I think T'Challa should be recast. However, I think the best way to do that is maybe via like the multiverse or some sort of sci-fi logic to bring a new actor in that still is T'Challa, just as a different actor. Alternatively, I think some people are kind of bored for Michael B. Jordan to come back as like a good version of Killmonger, to kind of like sort of take the mantle. And like I also see that because Michael B. Jordan was a villain that people still liked. You know, and Loki's kind of taught us that like, you make a good version of our villains, we'll still take them. I'll still bring it. I'll accept that. I wouldn't accept the Killmonger that we got because he did some pretty terrible things, but the multiverse is an open door now. There's people coming back to life every other day in this universe. So yeah, we'll never know if he wants to come back. Actually, you can have an exclusive on this. I interviewed Michael B. Jordan quite recently, and I asked him exactly if he's willing to bring Killmonger back after like post What If, whether it's like for voicing him or just bringing Killmonger back through via the multiverse. And he gave a very Marvel Studios answer where he was like, well, you never know, because Marvel Studios, you know, you never know what they're gonna do. I love Killmonger and I'm always happy to bring him back. So if Marvel come knocking with the Killmonger script, or the bring back Killmonger script, he's down for it. But it was a very like Kevin Feige had a gun to his head as soon as he asked that.
So it makes me wonder now if he was one of the potential like reshoots for Multiverse of Madness. Like if he was one of the actors who came back for, because we know reshoots just wrapped for Multiverse of Madness not too long ago. If he's one of the people who was there potentially, you know, filming a good version of Killmonger, or filming a version where, you know, he got to grow up in Wakanda, maybe he became the Black Panther. That's I mean, because we know, like you were saying, the Kevin Feige gun to your head, like that's kind of standard, especially like when they're still involved in a Marvel project. Andrew Garfield, we know for a fact was suffering. So it's very possible that he might be one of the Multiverse of Madness cameos, because there's gonna be so many.
It's gonna be so many. I'm almost concerned as to like where the movie is among all these cameos. Everyone's like, the only conversation is who's cameoing in this movie, and I want to see as many cameos as the next guy. But I'm just like, wait, what's the plot of the movie? What actually happens here? Because I feel like the X-Men are gonna show up, and I'm like, okay, cool, the multiverse. But what the hell does the X-Men have to do with Doctor Strange? Like, it feels so random.
So, so I mean, yes, I know, like, I'm definitely the camp, like, I want so many cameos. I actually tweeted this like the other day, like, I wonder if Multiverse of Madness will be like kind of what Civil War was to Captain America, that it was definitely an Avengers movie as opposed to a Captain America movie. I wonder if that's what Multiverse of
Yeah,
Madness will be. It won't necessarily be a Doctor Strange movie, which I'm fine with. Like, you know, I know I'm going to enjoy like seeing all of these people, all these characters and actors come back. But at the same time, I also wonder if, because remember when like Batman versus Superman was going to come out, that like the news that like
yeah,
Aquaman's going to be in it, the Flash is going to be in it, like everyone's like, it's too many characters, but in the end it was just like these brief little clips.
yeah.
um so it could end up being something like that, where if Strange is like looking through the multiverse and they see like snippets of different universes, that could also
Yeah.
be the case.
True, true. I mean, I'd probably prefer it in that way,
Mhm.
especially because I'm pretty sure Kevin Feige said it himself, like
Mhm.
when they first announced Multiverse of Madness, that this is going to be like one of the scarier Marvel projects. And it's going to be like super dark and like pretty creepy. And I'm pretty sure we can all come to the same conclusion that Wanda may be the villain of this movie or some sort of like antagonistic force. Um, and like if that happens, R.I.P. Strange. I'm like I'm gonna stick with that. I'm fine with whatever Wanda decides. But like I'm hoping that the multiverse stuff is restricted to mostly cameos. I will say I did literally rewatch Spider-Man No Way Home again today for the sixth time now. No regrets. And it did make me like, it reminded me that like cameos and fan service are fun, but I think the best of cameos and best of like fan service are the ones that still like are part of the plot, are part of the story.
Mhm.
The specific surprise characters in No Way Home. I don't know why I'm saying it like it's a mystery. The mystery people that appear in the movie. Um, they were integral to the story. Like they felt like if they weren't there, the story would feel different. But like they had an
Yes.
arc. They were a part of the wider message of the movie. Like it made
Mhm.
sense. They were main characters, and like I don't want like Michael Fassbender to just kind of like be there and then be gone. Like some of these guys, I hope would be main characters. But
Yes.
either way, as long as this is a movie where I get to see a full showdown between Strange and Wanda, and I want Wanda to win. I want
Mhm.
Strange to win so that the good guys can save the day. But like I want Wanda to win so that with fanboys can get really annoyed, and that would make my heart.
Yes. I mean, and I've wondered this too, if, because we know there's going to be like a Dark Strange, I wonder if like there'll be a variant Wanda, which could also be played by Elizabeth Olsen, especially considering she's a Nexus being. So there's like more justification for that. Because they've said, you know, the rumors coming out that Wanda is going to kill people doesn't necessarily mean our Wanda. It could mean another universe's Wanda. But then again, you know, she's last time we saw her, she was looking for her kids. So, and the whole
No,
concept that when Agatha's telling her, you know, you're more powerful than Sorcerer Supreme, it's your destiny to destroy the world. That's also like not playing in her favor of being one of the good guys still. So it really could go
no.
either way for her. I'm excited regardless.
Do. I think it's going to be a Hulk situation where I think she's going to have some sort of like evil heart. I kind of theorized this is about the crazy theories of WandaVision. I theorized this during WandaVision that like
Mhm.
this dark evil Wanda is going to have its own entity, like it's going to be her own person, similar
Ah,
to like back in the X-Men movies, like Jean Grey and the Phoenix, like the Phoenix
right.
in the Last Stand was like its own character, and the regular Jean Grey was just buried. I
Mhm.
feel like it might be that sort of thing where like Wanda's just trying to be normal and live a completely calm, mature life, but also the evil Wanda is like astral projecting in the next room, reading the book and like learning about the kids. And I'm wondering if like Doctor Strange is going to recruit her help and they're going to go multiverse hopping and try to like save the multiverse. And then she's
Mhm.
going to see an opportunity where she can bring her kids back and there's a universe where her kids do exist. And that's where she like just turns on Strange and the evil Wanda comes out. And then
Right.
it's like, we need to, I believe in her, like, the good one is there, we just need to bring it out of her. Like I'd love to see that sort of thing. Like Wanda's kind of battle with herself.
Mhm.
Basically, I want a Wanda movie featuring Doctor Strange.
Yes. Yes. I feel like that's what a lot of fans want. And I think she definitely will be successful, like, with finding her kids. We kind of know that, well, it hasn't been confirmed, but this actor, Colin, I'm forgetting his last name, but he posted a picture recently with Haley, and the caption was like marvelous things coming up. And there was like a little pic, he has like a what do you call those things, the stories, a highlight on his Instagram that's
Mm.
called training, but it has a picture of Tommy, aka Speed, from the Young Avengers.
Ah,
And so again, nothing's been confirmed, but everybody's who's stumbled across this guy's page is kind of thinking, okay, are you Tommy? Like, have you been
yeah,
cast and it hasn't come out yet? I don't know. So if like that's the case, if like this older version of Tommy like is actually gonna play a role in the MCU at some point, that means like Wanda's probably successful with her
yeah,
mission of finding her kids. But like what that means in terms of like her morality and the decisions she makes, TBD. And
yeah.
people are probably gonna die.
Yeah, and you know what? I never really like thought about it until now, because I'm just so excited to see what the main story is like. I wonder where this movie is gonna like end, but with Wanda, like with
Right.
Strange, we know it's probably gonna end with him just being the Sorcerer Supreme. He's gonna fix him,
Mhm.
fix the multiverse, and see you in Doctor Strange 3. Like, just I can't see
Yeah.
his character changing much by the end. But like Wanda, she's lucky that she got to kind of go off and go live on her little quiet farm after Westview. Like
Yeah.
you did a lot of bad stuff. You just got to fly away, sure. So after all this, like, it is strange and wanting to be like, well, you've got some sheep to go take care of, Wanda. I'll see you later, buddy. You take care of those farm animals, and go live with your two little 10-year-old children. Like, I'm wondering, especially if they are doing Tommy and Billy and like making them Young Avengers and stuff, if they become the heroes in their own right and they become Young Avengers and they go off into their own movies and TV shows, where does Wanda sit? Like, is Wanda staying nearby them, looking after them? Does she get trapped in another universe? Does she, knock on wood, does she die? Like, I never really considered it, but I don't really see many places for Wanda to sit once this movie is all said and done, whether she's successful or not. Like, where do you place Wanda? Is she an Avenger? Is she a permanent villain? Is she dead? I don't see a comfortable place to put her next.
Yeah. I mean, now I also have not thought about this until you mentioned it now. I mean, and I feel like it almost makes me question the reshoots, because seeing how popular Wanda is with the fans, I feel like they would like revolt if if they killed Wanda off, even if it was
Yeah,
kind of a thing where she like kind of falls to her darker magic, but then like turns back to like save the day, and very kind of like last minute redemption story kind of thing, which is also possible.
yeah,
And then in the end still killing her off. I don't know how well that would play with the fandom. I mean, even if it's executed
yeah.
well, I still don't see a lot of fans being happy with that. I just don't. I think,
No,
I mean, obviously, regardless of what happens, Wanda's theme overall is just tragedy. Like, there's never really been a movie where she ends on a happy note. Age of
yeah,
Ultron, yeah, she joins the Avengers, but her twin is dead. Civil War, yeah, the
yeah,
implications that she escapes the raft, but she's on the run. Infinity War, she gets dusted. Endgame, Vision is gone. Like, there's a trend here. Like,
yeah,
she's alive, but she's not doing well.
yeah,
So yikes.
yeah. And I think, like, with Multiverse of Madness is gonna just be like seeing how all that trauma like has affected her, especially post One Division, where like it clearly all just came to the surface to a point where like it affected her abilities without her knowing. So like during the movie, I'm pretty sure we're gonna see a lot of like how that trauma has affected her. The chances are she's going to experience some more trauma in this movie. Are we going to see like a White Vision come only to just then die?
Right.
Are they,
Right.
I personally, I mean, I agree. I think fans won't like killing off Wanda. I don't even like breathing that into the universe because that would not sit well with any of the Marvel fandom. In fact, I think they would lose a significant amount. Like the last time we spoke, like on my show, we were talking about like how Wanda specifically has brought in so many new fans. Like so all the Wanda fans are like it's a cult at this point. I don't think Marvel can afford to lose them. They are a powerful army of the wider Marvel fandom that I think they want to keep on the side. Personally, I mean, because of the specific genre that Wanda slots into, I wouldn't be mad at a Scarlet Witch trilogy of movies. I think Wanda and Elizabeth Olsen deserves that. I think the show shows that she's like a perfect leading lady. People like her. She's likable. She's interesting, and her darker gothic mystical route is that witch mysticism is a genre that they haven't really explored. Doctor Strange lends into some of that, dorkish, like elvish magic stuff, but like I think they can really go down the sort of the darker mystical route with Wanda with her own trilogy. That way she's not necessarily losing too much because we know she's gonna keep getting more movies and we're gonna enjoy it. So yes. I am balling for that. A lot of the new main like fan favorites. I'm just like, okay, cool. These Disney Plus shows are great. Give them their movie. So far, the only like one that they've confidently said that's getting their like a spin-off movie is Sam Wilson. And I'm like, damn right, good. Yeah, Falcon and the Winter Soldier sets up Captain America 4. Happy with that. Lovely. Yeah. Please do that with all of them. Give me my Kate and Yelena movie, like Hawkeye and Black Panther the movie. You know, give me give me Mobius the movie.
Where he finally gets to ride his jet ski.
Yeah, and that's like the whole movie. And he's just like his Owen Wilson and his TVA, but he's like on the run from the TVA and he just has to like avoid them on jet skis, like kind of like a Tom Cruise movie. He's just on a jet ski and chased down.
I mean, I agree. I feel like, and we've seen like, for example, like with Agatha getting not a movie, but her own show. I feel like Disney Plus is definitely the place where Marvel can explore these characters at greater length and see who we want as the fans to see more of. Even if they don't give Wanda like her own trilogy, like it doesn't necessarily have to even be WandaVision season 2. It could be like the Scarlet Witch or, some other variety if it's her and like another character teaming up. I definitely think, I know the fans would eat any sort of content up that has Wanda featuring in it. Like you said, a Wanda movie featuring Doctor Strange is essentially what Multiverse of Madness looks like it's going to be. And it's true. It's just, there's such a huge portion of the fandom, the Wanda stands, and they don't have a character just yet that has that same kind of pull that Wanda does. Like a lot of the Tony fans, the Steve fans, the Natasha fans, like those were like the big sort of like cults in the fandom. And with them being gone, there's like this vacuum essentially. And there isn't really another character. I mean, I feel like the next closest one would be Spider-Man and then maybe Bucky. And Bucky, that kind of comes and goes. It's definitely nowhere near as big as the Wanda cult. And I feel like Spider-Man right now, just kind of because the movie recently came out, is more active. But since WandaVision came out, like the Wanda fans have been consistent in like, for the lack of a better word, their like power or presence, I guess.
Oh yeah. They know exactly what their impact has like on the Marvel fandom. I mean, like and part of it is because of what WandaVision was like, because it was a weekly release show. WandaVision was like just a 9-week conversation. So the Wanda stands were like, we did that. We ate up like the first 20% of 2021 was ours. We ate that up. So they know the exact impacts that they have. I agree. Like they're sort of the flagship fan group of this of Phase 4 so far. The closest behind them, I'd say, like Bucky as well. From Falcon and Winter Soldier. I think with difference with Bucky, I think his fans come a lot more from, kind of similar to like Tom Hiddleston and Loki, I think come a lot more from the infatuation with the character rather than fair. Rather than like I would protect Wanda with my life sort of thing.
Right.
I think Tom Loki and Bucky kind of come from like fans have crushes on these characters. I'm not saying fans don't have Wonder, but I think the connection to Wanda is a lot deeper than the
No, I
connection with
agree.
Loki.
Yeah.
Though I think Loki and Falcon and Winter Soldier are great shows in a different respect. What I think the Wonder following was like, so it was so personal and so like easily relatable that the fans really attached to her the most. So she's definitely one. I think the next closest in phase 4 would probably be Yelena and Kate.
You're right. Yeah.
Because like even with Black Widow, she wasn't supposed to be the main character. The main character was supposed to be poor Nat. But the one takeaway from everyone's like, oh yeah, the Yelena movie, that one with Yelena. and even with Hawkeye was supposed to be the main character, but Kate and Yelena were like, they
Stole
were the
the
main
show.
They're the ones you take away. So I think, I want nothing more than Hawkeye and Black Widow. I want the movie to just be called like Hawkeye and Black Widow, or Black Widow and Hawkeye, and it'd be a duo movie between Kate and Yelena. Clint can be there, but the main dynamic you want to see is those two, right? Because Clint has a great relationship with Kate, and a dynamic with Kate. We don't really see much of his dynamic with Yelena for me to warrant a duo of those two. But the new sort of Hawkeye Black Widow era, I'd like to be Kate and Yelena. I think they're the next closest, like the people. I think they're the next closest group of fans that people feel them as like connected to.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because I remember in the earlier days of the fandom, like 2012, 2013, everybody was like, give us the Hawkeye and Black Widow movie. Tell us what happened in Budapest. And, the Black Widow movie kind of did that. But I think it would be really great to do a movie titled like Black Widow and Hawkeye, or Hawkeye and Black Widow, because especially for like any new fans who's like, I don't know like what order I should watch it, and they would assume that, oh, this should be like earlier on, but it's actually like, no, this is second generation. And I think they would be able to do it in a way that would like still pay tribute to Natasha and Clint, but it's just like you said, like the dynamic between Kate and Yelena is just so good, and fans just love it so much. It would be, I kind of almost want it to be its own Disney Plus series. I feel like having the weekly feeding of those two would be more satisfying.
We get a lot more from it. And like, I was having a conversation recently about like sort of Marvel's next upcoming projects. It's hard now for any of the movies to come out with our first sort of instinct to be like, that would have been good as a Disney Plus series. That would have been good as like an extended, just like 6-hour 6-week conversation sort of a thing. Instead, because I think my friend was saying that about like Spider-Man No Way Home, and like I was saying that Spider-Man, like I love No Way Home, I wouldn't change a thing, but like I think a concept they can do with Spider-Man in future is to give Spider-Man a live action series, maybe like on Disney Plus or whatever Sony's equivalent to Disney Plus is these days. Like I feel like Spider-Man, because he's similar to Hawkeye, a street level hero first and foremost, that sort of story, especially following something like No Way Home, is hard. It's hard to compare to like the big sci-fi and magic-y stuff. So in a series where you just see him having to deal with like villains that he can very easily take out in one punch, but he has to kind of be a bit more methodical, kind of like how Homecoming was. He was fundamentally stronger than Vulture in virtually every way, but he had to kind of gauge the situation. The narrative didn't lend for him to just like take it out in a fight. He had to be smart. Same with Mysterio. It was more about he had to be a bit smarter with how he takes care of his villains. And plenty of Spider-Man villains like have that. Like Prowler is much more of a methodical villain. Characters like Chameleon and Black Cat, these like characters that don't have any specific dangerous powers, like world-ending movie level powers. But they know how to target Spider-Man right where it hurts. And I think a series would be great for that. But as my friend kind of argued, but because of the movies, people expect something really big. But take Eternals, a lot of people's takeaway is that could have had a series because there were so many characters, which I also agree with. I love it. Again, I love Eternals. Personally, I wouldn't change a thing. I'm in the camp that it was like a virtually perfect movie. But people say it would have served to be a series. It's very easy to say that about any movie now. Like any movie that comes, like I wouldn't have said no to a Shang-Chi series. That'd have been cool.
That would have been really cool.
I do think that the benefit of sometimes keeping them as movies is just like the spectacle, like the size and like scale of it all. Like an Eternal series would have been great, but like seeing Eternals like in the theaters, like that big screen look of Arishem, the massive information that comes at you on that big screen with that gorgeous, all those gorgeous visuals. Like that was an important part of the movie for me. I think the seeing everything in such a big scale. So some stories like I didn't need to see a movie version of what the Hawkeye show was, because that wasn't so much spectacle so much as it was like narrative. Whereas Eternals was like narrative, but also you need that huge view to kind of take it all in.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why, like Multiverse of Madness, for example, why that is better suited to be a movie as opposed to a show, because yes, especially like with all the cameos, depending how they handle it, like that could serve for like a 10 episode series. Like it would be so easy to, drag it out. And that way, all of these cameos can actually like have a good amount of screen time to like actually flesh out these stories. But I think visually, it's just going to be so much better playing in a movie theater. Like I feel like, especially when you think of like the visual aspect of the multiverse, it's definitely like story-wise it could work for a series, but like you were talking about with the Eternals, like there's just, because especially like nowadays, we can watch stuff on our phones, and watching the Eternals, for example, like if you're watching like an Eternal series on your phone, but it's playing out the same way more or less as the movie did, you're not going to get that same impact. And everybody always talks about how beautiful the Eternals look. Like regardless of what you thought of the story itself, like for the most part, people are agreeing. Like visually, it's gorgeous. And I feel like Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness is probably going to be the same. I feel like it's going to be very impactful visually, and I feel like yes, a series could have worked, but it's probably better off as a movie. It would be funny to see if like with the reshoots, it was like this actual like secret other like sequel that they don't want to tell us about, and they're gonna say at the end like part 2 coming whenever. I thought that was gonna end up. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just thought that it'd be hilarious if they kind of did like a Dune situation where it's like the movie's happening, you're like, oh my god, this is the big, most impactful part of the movie. So then it's like the story continues in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness Part 2. You're like, wait, what? Where's the rest?
Yes, because it makes me think of Back to the Future 2 and Back to the Future 3, that they were filmed back to back, but this is before Twitter, so people weren't really aware that had happened. So when you're in the theater watching Back to the Future 2, and at the end they immediately play the trailer for Back to the Future 3, I actually thought that was going to end up happening with No Way Home, just because of like how big we thought this movie was going to be, and it was a very big movie. But I thought it's weird that they suddenly decided to push Multiverse of Madness, like the release. I wonder if there's going to be like this secret like sequel that nobody knows about, and they're going to like say to be continued or something. I kind of hope, if not with Multiverse of Madness, but like Marvel does that one day, just because of like how utterly insane the fandom would go. Like we would collectively just lose our minds.
I think they must be aware that like the fandom, the more annoying side of the fandom, are very plugged into like leaks and spoilers and stuff like that. And for me personally, like I mean I love like knowing what's coming next. As a content creator, I kind of need to know what comes next so I can prepare myself accordingly. Make sure you're not working when the Moon Knight trailer drops. Like I enjoyed that, but at the same time, I don't think I've been at a point in Marvel where they've released some sort of post-credit scene for a project that I didn't see coming. In a manner of speaking, like I'd love for like the post-credit scene of Multiverse of Madness to be setting up a show that we didn't even know was in the works. Like another Scarlet Witch show, like a Wong show or something, like something that we just didn't see coming. We're like, what? I want that. I want that so much. I'd love to just completely surprise us with a trailer for a movie that they had not announced. Nothing, we knew nothing about it. It's just they just did it off their own back purely to surprise fans. I would love that. That would be a good power move on Marvel to be like, yeah, you think you know everything. You think you know our leaks. You think you've got some sort of spy in our organization, but nah, we've got it all. We've got our secrets.
Oh my god. That would be fantastic, honestly.
I need that.
Okay, so I think we covered pretty much everything that we like all the new Marvel news that has come out so far. So before we end the episode, I am introducing a new segment to the podcast, which you get to be the lucky first participant in this segment. And it's called Outrageous Theories. So I reached out to my followers on Instagram and asked them to submit their wildest, most outrageous theories. I'm going to read one to you, and you have to do your best to justify why it works in the Marvel Cinematic Universe with everything we know so far.
Okay. All right. I like that. All right. I like that.
Okay. So the Scarlet cosplayer submitted the following theory. Stark Industries created Spider-Man. Okay.
Justifying Stark Industries creating Spider-Man. I can put some solid evidence into this. If I'm thinking as to where the Scarlet cosplayer is going with this. Mm-hmm. So with Captain America Civil War, we introduced to Spider-Man. Tony says he's had, you know, Spider-Man in his sort of back pocket for a while. He's been keeping an eye on this kid that's like doing stuff on YouTube. It's pretty weird for a 50-something-year-old man to be stalking this kid catching cars, 15-year-old child catching cars on YouTube, and then subsequently like abducting him to Germany without parental consent. All that stuff seems weird. It seems like some odd choices for Tony to take an interest in this child, especially in a movie which, you know, the main plot is he feels regret because someone's like innocent child just died. So, you know, on one level, that seems strange, unless the spider that bit Peter Parker, you know, 6 months, he said, before Civil War, was actually a Stark Industries experiment. You know, in the movies, it's like sometimes it's Oscorp, sometimes it's Alchemax, sometimes it's just like in the case of Tobey Maguire's movie, a field trip. Some random field trip spider bites you. So I think maybe at one point, 6 months prior, there was some sort of like field trip to Stark Industries, and they were working on like animal experimentation and testing stuff on spiders. A spider got out and maybe bites Peter Parker. And I think Tony knew very early. He's not a dumb guy. He's a clever guy. Even if an accident did happen and, you know, someone got bitten by one of his accidental radioactive spiders, I think he takes an interest and he goes, oh, wait a second. That kid is seeing positive results from our accidental spider bite experiment. Let's keep an eye on him. And ever since Peter was bitten, he'd been watching him and keeping an eye, because he feels guilty that this kid was bitten by his mistake, but at the same time he sees potential in this kid and he's like, oh, actually this could be pretty good. Maybe it was like an experiment, like a program that he was trying to do very early on, maybe creating superheroes. Like maybe he, you know, following the failure of Ultron and creating the suit of armor around the world, maybe he wanted to create his own little team of, you know, little Power Rangers. Maybe there's like a cat experiment in there, or a rhino experiment, or a vampire experiment inside Stark Industries, and they all one way or the other get out, and people like Rhino and Black Cat and I don't know, Lizard and Scorpion, they get their abilities through this botched Stark because he feels guilty, and takes a keen interest for the rest of his career.
Okay, I'm 95% convinced. I'm gonna pick at your explanation just a little bit, and I want to see how you respond to it. So in Iron Man 3, Pepper turns down Aldrich Killian's Extremis because it's like the whole concept of like it is like almost borderline super soldier. Like Stark Industries doesn't want to do that anymore because it could be like weaponized. How do you counter that event?
So maybe he's not thinking, okay, right, that was a good comeback. maybe he's not thinking in the realm of like, I'm gonna superpower these people. Maybe he comes from like the Lizard's point of view, where it's about healing, because that's kind of what Extremis originally was, right? It's, you know, it's repairing limbs from people who, you know, like amputees and stuff like that, that just kind of went wrong. And you can argue that a lot of the animal experimentation, you're like, oh, if someone, I don't know, is blind, for example, having the keen reflexes of a spider could be super beneficial, and that could be a sort of a way to look around that. I don't know what the health benefits of being a cat is, but I'm sure there's some sort of recovery thing in there too. Maybe and, you know,
9
Peter's got like a
lives.
really high, get
Yeah.
extra 9 lives just in case you die. This experiment is here waiting for you. But like Peter's got, like, you know, natural healing factors, so maybe there are health benefits to it. And though Iron Man 3, yeah, that he did say that's not something he and Pepper were interested in. Between then and now, you've had the Ultron thing, you've had a lot of threats come to Earth where he feels like he had to be prepared for, and especially because this is Civil War, so this is before he feels regret for Ultron, but
Right.
still after his resolve in Iron Man 3. So this is kind of his weird transitional period. Like maybe Ultron wasn't the only thing he had cooking, and one of the other things he had cooking was this animal experimentation program.
I'm convinced. I would buy that theory.
Now I need it to happen. We'll find out. I guess we'll find out in the animated Spider-Man series. I'm hoping we get full backstory.
Yes, Spider-Man freshman year, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, 10 out of 10. I applaud that, because that was you didn't even reach at any point. Like that wasn't even like reaching. Like that's totally all logical. So
I just had to like take my mind back through the movies, and I was like, okay, at what point did Peter get bitten, and how could it be Tony's fault? Let me think about this.
I applaud you, because that was very well done.
Thank you. I tried.
And on that note, guys, we are wrapping up this episode of the Fandom Report. Tyrell, do you have any last thoughts, comments, feelings, anything you want to share with us about, you know, what we've discussed so far, about the news that's come out, before we sign off?
Nothing specific. I'm super excited for Moon Knight. That's going to have me by the throat. If Scarlet Witch is the villain in the Multiverse of Madness, then I will be supporting her, and this will be my villain origin story. They better not kill her off. And I believe that all the best Disney Plus shows, the characters that we love, should all get movies. So I'm talking Scarlet Witch, Yelena, and Jimmy Woo should all have movies of their own. And I stand
Jimmy
by
Woo.
that.
Jimmy Woo. Agreed. All right, you guys. So if you're not following Tyrell yet, he is Theories by T on TikTok and Instagram. I will link his socials in the description box. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you, T, so much for joining us.
Thank
really
you for
appreciate
having me,
it.
Kat.
Anytime. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.